Good evening, VV Nation. My name is Ryan and welcome to the channel. Now in tonight's presentation, I've got a special stock just for you. Now last week, I went over Palo Alto just after it reported earnings. We all saw it drop quite a bit. In that video, I said that was a little too dramatic and we've seen a sharp upturn since then. Now everyone was scared of their platformization that they announced in that earnings call. Now tonight's video, we're going to focus on a stock that is in the same industry, being cybersecurity. Now this is a hot industry. A lot of these stocks are trading at a premium right now. So tonight we are going to discuss all things CrowdStrike. That's right. So if this is a position that you own or thinking about getting in before earnings, this is something that you're going to want to stick around and pay attention to. Now, tonight's presentation, I'll be honest with you, I do not own this position, so I will give you an unbiased opinion when it comes to CrowdStrike itself. Now, I know Glenn did do a video on cybersecurity last night, so I'm not going to regurgitate that information. I'm going to give you great information that you can harness and utilize making better decisions going forward when it comes to CrowdStrike. Now, if this is something that you're interested in, stick around and let's get started. All right, the first article here, pretty obvious. The more they mention AI in their earnings call, that'll probably just get investors more and more excited, right? We all know about the AI hype recently, and we've seen the momentum behind stocks that are related to AI in general. Now, as we dive into the article, the very first statement written is executives considered cyber attacks the top threat to their companies, and artificial intelligence only exacerbates that risk. Now, CrowdStrike has been on the forefront in utilizing AI since 2022. You can see right here in the article, CrowdStrike's AI systems can crawl through trillions of data points for its customers. Big customers here. We've got Target, Salesforce, Intel, and even Wyoming state government. So you can see from a customer base here, they've got strong customers and they're only expected to grow going forward. Now, CrowdStrike did release their global threat report this past weekend here, so I just want to go over a few takeaways. Now, number 2 was cloud environment intrusions increased by 75%. Now, we're at no surprise that the cloud environment itself has grown astronomically for the past decade now. Therefore, the intrusions are following suit, and CrowdStrike is in a great position here to take on that threat globally. Now, point number 5 is that not only are there more attacks, but they're happening at a much faster pace. You can see here the intrusion time actually has dropped quite a bit here, going from 84 minutes to just 62 minutes between 2022 and last year. Now you can see here the general consensus is that Wall Street does expect earnings growth. Now as we take a closer look, it is expected to deliver year-over-year increase in earnings on higher revenues. Zacks comes in at 82 cents per share, which would give it a 75% year-over-year growth rate. On top of that, the revenue estimate is at $839 million, up just over 30% from the prior year. Now, on the bearish side, over the last 30 days, revisions of these estimates have came in and they've actually been slightly lower. Just slightly though, you can see here just 0.25%, so they are lowering their estimates collectively, but not at a very large margin. Now that I've shown you some articles and shown you the potential and the growth in this space and the consensus from Wall Street when it comes to the earnings, let's take a look and see what the VectorVest 7 system has to say about this position. Now that being said, just breaking it down here, we got CrowdStrike currently trading at $317. We see the value here only at $67. Now that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. It's just saying that investors are willing to pay a premium for this position. And if we look down below at the industry itself, software security, we see that the price currently is at $46 while the value is at $27. So in general, this is a very overvalued space, and that's one of my biggest concerns going into earnings right now. So let's go to the fundamental indicators here. We've got RV, relative value, and RS, relative safety. Now RV just looks at long-term price appreciation compared to an alternative investment and a AAA corporate bond. And with interest rates on the rise right now, this indicator becomes more and more relevant. You can see it's actually unfavorable. These indicators are on a 0 to 2 scale, above being favorable, below being unfavorable. And with RS, or relative safety, which looks at the consistency of the company's financials. That's very important when going into earnings. So with a higher RS rating, less likely you are to get thrown a curveball. Now that being said, fundamentally the company is mixed right now. However, RT relative timing is telling us that this position is currently in an uptrend right now. And overall, the VST rating does come in favorable at 1.15. And if we compare these to the industry averages down below here, you can see CrowdStrike is a great place to be in the space as their ratings are better than the average. Now the stock does currently have a buy rating, so let's get to the forecasted data, as I see that being a very important part when it comes to the earnings call next week here. We can see that the growth rate in earnings comes in at 26%, so phenomenal rating here, and even the sales growth rate sits at 35%. Now if we compare that to the industry average, we can see that the growth rate in earnings sits at 15%, while the sales growth rate comes in at only 6%. So if you're going to be in this space, this is a great stock to be in general. Now, if you're more conservative and you don't want to go through the volatile of an earnings call, you probably just want to wait till the dust settles and see what kind of price action occurs after the fact. However, if you are more aggressive and willing to take the risk, this may be a position to consider getting into before earnings. Now, that being said here, this green line represents our valuation of CrowdStrike. You can see the value on the rise over the last 12 months, which is a positive sign. Now, on top of that, we do have our earnings per share here. Again, this is the leading 12-month forecast. You can see the earnings per share, nice steady rise for the most part. However, recently we do see a decline here, which I did mention in the article where several revisions have been made slightly lower. Now, if we look down below, two things I am concerned about is its sales growth rate and the growth rate in earnings. Over the last 12 months, you do see both of these on the decline here, which draws me to the conclusion that from a forecasted standpoint, growth is slowing. However, the company's being more efficient and earnings has increased. All right, so this next graph layout, we're going to focus on the technicals. I'm going to give you the positive and the negatives that I see just currently speaking. We do see price action over the last 12 months. I like that it's above this 40-day moving average. Now, just last week after the Palo Alto earnings here, we did see a gap down. However, once price action got below that 40-day moving average, investors thought that they got a great deal. So you see price action back to the upside, diverging away from that 40-day moving average. Now, on top of that, we do see the 40-day along with the 200-day moving average here, both moving up, showing us that the longer term trends are in our favor right now. So now let's take a look at bear case scenarios. Now, this being said, we do see a bearish divergence between price action here. You do see a higher low here. However, if we take a look at RSI, where I see the bearish divergence occurring, we do notice that this swing low is lower than the prior, showing us some weakness from this technical standpoint. Now let's zoom into a 3-month time span to get a better visual. Now the first thing I do want to point here is a level of support at 304.78. I'd like to see price action stay above this support line to show me some momentum can continue with this position. Now my biggest concern right now is yesterday we got a shooting star, which is a bearish candlestick pattern here with some follow through come today. However, that follow through doesn't seem to be that strong. You can see a bottom wick here showing buyers and investors alike not wanting to see some follow through with this bearish candlestick pattern. And you can actually see here just during this recording, if I go to a 1-day chart, we are trading at session highs right now. So just keep your eye on this and see if we do get some follow through here from this bearish candlestick pattern. All right, VB Nation, I gave you the good, the bad, and the ugly here. Now, me personally, I am optimistic with this position going into earnings, and I see a common theme. You know, when price action dipped below that 40-day moving average, buyers came in to the rescue. Now, on top of that, even with today's shooting star, that bearish candlestick formation I was showing you, buyers are still coming in, trying to prevent any follow through coming in. Now, this being said here, I see this position potentially hitting a new high. That's right, breaking above that current high around 350 here. So I see 10% upside action when it comes to the earnings call. Now, time will tell. And if you found this video informative on both sides of the spectrum here, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, so that way we can keep you updated going forward. Good night.
Good day to everyone out there in VB Nation. My name is Jerry D'Ambrosio, Manager of Educational Content, and I would like to invite you to join me at the upcoming VectorVest International User Group Forum. We'll be broadcasting live on the VectorVest YouTube channel on Saturday, March 2nd, 2024 at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I'll be joined by Rick Franklin, Canadian consultant, and our keynote presenter will be none other than Susan Hayes-Culleton, Managing Director of VectorVest Europe. So join us for a global market review, trade ideas, and a fantastic keynote presentation titled Taking the Pulse on This Week's Earnings. We look forward to seeing you there.